Good afternoon, everyone. This is Joe Papano from FiberLink Communications. Thanks for joining us on our webinar today. Today we've got Donna Lima, who is a customer engineer here at FiberLink, and so she works with our customers to help set up and get our services running when folks purchase them. Also, sometimes she'll help out with trials. She's here to talk today about what she's learned and hopefully what you'll find valuable about best practices for provisioning iPhones, iPads, and Android devices. So Donna, thanks for coming back. I know you've presented a number of times before, but thanks for coming back and joining us today. One quick bit of business. Right after the webinar, about 15 minutes after it ends, you will get an email with a link to get the slides for today's webinar. So that's usually something people are interested in. And you will get that via email right after the webinar. So again, Donna, thanks for joining us today.
No problem, Joe. Thank you. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the mobile device life cycle, options for configuring Exchange ActiveSync, the steps that the end user takes to provision an iPhone and Android device, as well as the IT admin, the MDM architecture, so basically some of the benefits that you can get with an MDM management solution such as MAS 360 as compared to just using Exchange ActiveSync to manage your mobile devices. And then finally, we're going to go through a quick demo of our MAS 360 MDM platform and kind of show you some options that we have to offer you for mobile device management. So I think we're going to start off with a poll.
Yeah, we're going to run a couple of polls during the webinar today, and let me just pull it up here. Sorry. Oh, okay. And our first poll, we're going to ask everyone, and we've asked this in the past, whether you believe that Exchange ActiveSync is a platform that's sufficient for meeting all the needs you have managing mobile devices in your company.
Okay.
So we'll share that as soon as we're finished.
So the first thing we're going to talk about here is what is the mobile device life cycle for provisioning devices and kind of managing them in your environment. So we kind of took a step back and looked at it in three aspects. The first one being provisioning. So when you get a new device and you want to associate that device. Management, which includes IT workflow and daily activities, such as changing your users' policies, sending down software, changing passwords, those type of things. And then finally, deprovisioning. So when you need to remove that mailbox and remove that device, whether it's with a remote wipe or if you're going into the Exchange server and removing it that way. So the one thing that we want to keep in mind is we need to do this in a secure way. So how do we do that? Do we use a mobile device management platform, for example, MAS 360? So we'll dive a little bit deeper into that as we move along here.
We're going to do our second poll right now. So we just shared with you the results of the first poll. And we got a little bit different answers this time than last time. We asked the same question at our webinar 2 weeks ago, and the answer we got from the folks attending there was about 40% believed that Microsoft Exchange and ActiveSync were sufficient for managing their mobile devices. This week we've got a little bit different picture. I would be honest with you and say that I kind of agree more with the folks who say that it's probably not sufficient, right? And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So our next question, we're going to ask folks specifically about the type of Exchange ActiveSync infrastructure they've got and what they're planning to do, if anything, in the future in regard to their email infrastructure. So we've just opened the poll, and we'll let that run for about 20 seconds.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Okay, so next we wanted to discuss the options for configuring Exchange ActiveSync. So basically, there's three different ways that you can set up ActiveSync in your Exchange environment. When we do this, we want to make sure that it's the most secure. So the first one, ActiveSync enabled for all. So basically, you know, ActiveSync is enabled, and as long as your end user knows the exchange information, they can quickly just get connected right away with their mobile device. Sure, the user is going to love this because they don't have to go through any approval process or anything like that. However, the security and the IT team isn't really going to like that too much. So the second option is where ActiveSync is actually disabled globally and then enabled per mailbox. So the Exchange administrator would have to go in to each user's mailbox and allow Exchange ActiveSync when that is requested or desired. So this one is definitely the most secure. The security team is going to love this. It's locked down, and you basically have the keys to the kingdom to let who you want in and to block who you do not want to let in. Obviously, the end user is not going to like this one. And then finally, the one that we recommend is auto quarantine. Now, in Exchange 2007, this is not an option. However, with our MAD 360 management platform, we do give you the ability to turn on auto quarantine via our platform. So for 2010, you can do this. However, it's not easily done. You have to use some PowerShell scripting, but it can be done. So basically what would happen is if the user knows the exchange information, they enter it into their mobile phone, and then the IT administrator would get an email stating that so-and-so is trying to get into your exchange environment, and then you can go and actually allow them to get through, or you can block them. So this is kind of a happy medium, I think, for both the security and IT team as well as the user. The user still can initiate that request, and then the IT team has the ability to allow them or block them.
Okay, we're going to do our third poll right now. And this will be our last one, so I appreciate everybody's patience while we run all these. And this is one we've asked a number of times, and you know, frankly, we do it just to understand what types of mobile devices folks out there in the marketplace are dealing with. So it's pretty simple. Which types of platforms, mobile device platforms, are you supporting in your organization right now? And you know, really, that means kind of in a formal way, right? Not just people are walking around the hallways with them.
Okay. So now that we've figured out how we want to activate Exchange ActiveSync in our environment, the next step would be having our end users provision their mobile devices. So we're going to go through provisioning an iPhone for ActiveSync first, and I have some screenshots here to kind of show you what the end user would see. So basically, once they go into the mail, contacts, and calendar setting, they can go ahead and enter in their corporate email, the domain, their username and password, and then make the description whatever they want. So then what will happen next is it will do an auto discovery against your Exchange server to pull back that Exchange information. And the screen on the right would come up if, for some reason, it could not auto-discover that domain. So then the user, or the server, I'm sorry. So then the user can go in and enter in the Exchange server information in there and connect. So then the next screen that they would be taken to is this mail, contacts, and calendar, and you know, pretty self-explanatory. They can either turn that on or off depending on how what they want to sync with. So provisioning an Android device, similar, different, obviously different OS, different screenshots here. But basically what you're going to have to enter in is your domain name and your username. Then you would enter in the password and make sure that the secure connection is checked. You're going to enter in your email address, the server name, hit next, and then you're basically done. And then after that, you just want to go into those email settings for that account and make sure that you have your calendar, contacts, email, depending again on what you want to sync with. Most users want everything. And then you want to make sure that your sync messages is on, you know, long enough so the user is seeing email history. And then finally, Again, you can go back into those email settings to kind of get some more options if you want for notifications, which default email account, etc. Okay, so now that we've decided on ActiveSync, we've provisioned a couple of devices. Now it's really about how are we going to manage these devices. And the first thing that I wanted to talk about was the limitations and administration challenges. But before that, I think Joe's going to...
Well, yeah, I just wanted to say this is kind of one of the reasons why we kind of asked the question earlier about do you think ActiveSync is sufficient for managing devices. So, you know, these are what, we see when we work with customers in terms of gaps in ActiveSync for managing mobile devices. If you folks have other ideas or thoughts, send them to me via chat. We'll try to take those kind of in line here. Go ahead, Donna.
Okay. So a couple of the limitations I'm going to talk about with ActiveSync is it's not really designed for secure mobile device management. Sure, you can go in and you can enable or disenable it, and you can, change people's policies and assign policies, but it's not really a secure way and an easy way to see all your devices. As we stated earlier, there's no auto-quarantine function in 2007, and it is quite difficult to enable in 2010. There's also no out-of-the-box reporting. You can certainly get that with scripting and third-party apps such as Crystal Reports, but there's no real dashboard that you can go to and see how many Androids or see how many iPhones I have in my environment without right-clicking on the user's mailbox, going to mobile management, and kind of drilling down, which can be very time-consuming. Specific device information is not pulled. For example, with Exchange, you only get the information that it pulls. So you're not going to see if they're on which mobile network they're on. Are they on Verizon? Are they on AT&T? You're not going to see the software that they have installed. You're not going to see what apps are out there that they have. And you won't be able to tell which OS they're on. And then lastly, sometimes you'll see in Exchange a very inconsistent data that you'll get from mobile devices. So, we kind of want to restrict that and get the most data that we can from the device.
And in the last couple minutes, we'll do a quick demo of the MAZ mobile device platform, and we'll show you a single device and how it's reported via ActiveSync and how it's reported via, a service like MAZ 360 for mobile devices. I can tell you from our Android fragmentation webinar 2 weeks ago, one of the things that's really kind of a challenge here is there's kind of versions of Android before 2.2 that really aren't, what I'd say are enterprise friendly or enterprise safe. And, it's things like that where ActiveSync reports the device strictly as Android but doesn't give you any version information that makes it really difficult to know how to apply policies appropriately to that device because, frankly, whether it's running 2.1 or 2.2 makes a tremendous difference in how you might treat the device.
Right. So then a couple of the administration challenges that we've run into with Exchange ActiveSync. In regards to policy management, you can only have one policy per mailbox. So it gets kind of sticky if you have a user that has, an iPad and an Android phone. You can't necessarily have two different policies for those devices. And as we know, those two OSs are completely different. So the security and restrictions that you may want to set up, it's just not going to mesh with both of them.
And that's really like that's an architectural issue, right? I mean, this is a remnant of the fact that Microsoft kind of glued or bolted device management, mobile device management onto Exchange, which was built, as a messaging platform. And so, architecturally, policies are associated with a mailbox rather than a device, which is really kind of where the architecture doesn't quite support reality now that people are carrying multiple handheld devices as well as tablets now, right?
Yep, definitely. So the next one was policy assignment. As you guys probably know with ActiveSync, when you go in to a particular user's mailbox, you have to go into the mobile device view, and then you have to kind of drill down to get what policy they're in. but at a quick glance, you can't really say who's in what policy. Viewing mobile devices in your environment, again, you have to drill down. There's no nice view where you can go in and see how many Androids do I have, how many iPhones are in my environment. And then finally, you'll find that most mobile device actions are limited within Exchange. So you can only basically do your standard wipe, remove, etc. You can't do, for example, a selective wipe where you just take away the corporate data if it's a personal device. So as we've seen, once you get into some of the application-based or iOS stuff, you have a lot more options to secure and lock down those devices. So we'll get into that a little bit later. So the next part that I wanted to talk about, we just kind of went over what you would do, how you would manage it with Exchange ActiveSync. Now I'm kind of talk about the MAS 360 mobile device management platform. So basically what we offer is an Exchange ActiveSync manager, as well as an iOS and Android mobile device manager for additional capabilities. So I'm sure, as most of you know, in regards to Apple's iOS, they already have the MDM APIs built in, so you don't need to install an application. However, with Android, they're not that advanced yet, so we do need to enter and install our application on the device. So we'll kind of get into that a little bit further. Having our MAS 360 mobile device management helps organizations at a glance understand their mobile device posture in real time, which is, great, on their Exchange infrastructure. So it helps organizations extend mobile device management operations to other teams if desired. So basically, you can have different logins to our MAS 360 portal, and you can restrict that access on a per-user basis. And basically, you don't have to give anyone in your organization access to the Exchange server, which I know a lot of people don't like to do, which is understandable because email is, critical in business. So you don't want anything to happen to that server. So this way, kind of, you can have other people view the reports and your finance team, etc. So it will also ease the day-to-day functionality of Exchange management. As I was saying earlier, in regards to policy management and figuring out how many Androids you have in your environment, how many policies you have, who's assigned to what policy, and actually assigning policies to users is much easier.
One quick thing there. In 2 weeks, our next webinar is going to be about kind of ways to help manage mobile devices better through Exchange, specifically 2007 and 2010. I mean, anyone who deals with Exchange on a regular basis knows it's not exactly easy to administer. And I mean, even things that would seem relatively simple, like show me all the mailboxes that have a mobile device ActiveSync association with them, take multiple steps and multiple click-throughs, multiple drop-down menus to actually get to that information. And running the quarantine process is an even bigger challenge. So in 2 weeks, we'll talk a little bit about ways you can do a better job with Exchange 2007 and 2010. So if you get a chance, dial in for that one.
As I talked about earlier, we add quarantine and device approval workflows to Exchange 2007. It's as simple as checking a box in your configuration in MAS 360. And just like that, you can start getting emails and quarantine those new devices coming in. You'll have the ability to go in and block or allow those devices. And with 2010 as well, it's a checkbox. You don't have to worry about learning PowerShell scripting and et cetera. In the platform, you can have multiple policies. So you can have an iOS policy, an Android policy, and an Exchange ActiveSync policy. So if you have a user that has an iOS device and an Android device, you can put them into two different policies. So it's not restricted by mailbox. It's restricted, well, by device.
Right. So the reality is there isn't a restriction.
Right.
Right. You could have
as many.
Yeah, you can have the appropriate level of policy assigned to each device.
Correct. And then the next one was selective wipe with iOS, and we also do offer this for Android as well. The Android stuff isn't as complex as the iOS. You can remove most of the corporate stuff, but not the email. So I think they're still working on that in regards to getting that corporate side up to date.
Yeah, and that's really just kind of a reality of the maturity of the two platforms right now. I mean, you know, Apple has done a better job, especially when they put iOS 4.0 out, of plugging most of the gaps that, you know, caused people to not believe it really could compete with BlackBerry, which is obviously the incumbent here in most corporations. So they did a very good job there, and I think that is why when we did our poll earlier, you know, what we saw was more people were supporting iOS currently than Android, and I think it is strictly, you know, frankly, because iOS is ahead of Android right now in terms of being able to secure it and lock it down. If you were on the Android fragmentation webinar 2 weeks ago, you know, we talked a little bit about the recent announcements from Samsung and Motorola at the Mobile World Congress regarding, you know, security layers that they plan to build and then pre-install on their own devices, their own Android devices that ship out. And, you know, those things are healthy signs that, you know, the right functionality to make Android a good citizen in the, you know, in the corporate IT organization are coming, but obviously Apple's still ahead there.
Definitely. And then finally, you are able to push out VPN and wireless profiles with the iOS and Android piece. So if you don't necessarily want to tell your users what the secure access code is for your wireless, you can push that down to the mobile device and have them connect without having them to enter in that information. And one last point I wanted to note as well is there's a really good audit trail of who did what. So if mysteriously some device got wiped and you want to figure out who did it, you can go in there and figure out who did it.
Yeah, for certainly for any company that, you know, has regulatory compliance needs, you know, you need this information when the auditors come in. They want to make sure that you have an audit trail of what's changed, who changed it, when it changed, what it changed from, and, you know, all of those things. You know, from our history managing laptops, you know, we knew that that was something that folks were going to need with these particular mobile devices as well.
Definitely. Okay, so in regards to how do you get this set up, so I'll start off with Android. So if you're going to sign up for a trial, you can get started right away with Android. You don't need anything. You go in, we get you set up, the configurations, and then you can go in and you can send an enrollment device from our MAD 360 portal, and that will get sent down to the user's Android device. As I stated earlier, with Android, we do need to install an application that you download from the App Store because they don't offer those APIs in the OS yet, because we're basically just leveraging their APIs and their capabilities and what they can do. So then I'll go through the rest of that in a little bit, what the end user would see on their end. But that's basically it. Once they're in there, you can go in and you can start managing those devices. In regards to iOS, Apple does require you to have the APNS certificate, so the Automated Application Push Notification Service cert. That is something that is required by Apple to integrate with any type of MDM platform, not just MAD 360. So once you get that, or if you already have that APNS cert, you simply log into our portal, upload it to your area, and then you can go ahead and start configuring. And the same type of thing, you'll go in and you'll send an enrollment request down to the device, and they'll go through and enter in their credentials. And then finally, the Exchange Active piece, the Active Sync piece, is if you just want to integrate with your Exchange Active Sync, so basically we'll bring over all your policies and all your devices and make it a lot easier to manage those Active Sync policies within our platform. And then, so what you would have to do is we have something called the Cloud Extender, and that would get installed on a server in your environment that can talk to the Exchange server. And installation is quick and fairly easy, and you can get up and running with that as well. So in regards to what the end user sees once you send an enrollment request down to the device, I won't spend too much time on these. I just wanted you to see all the screenshots here that the user would see. So basically, they would get sent a link either via SMS or you can email it to them. They would have to enter in a passcode and then kind of go through the install process in regards once the enrollment request is sent. So then with iOS, you also have to go through, which will prompt you automatically to go through and download the certificate. So that's what you see here, as well as the profile. And then you can see here on the right, you'll see an MDM profile and then the policy. Android is very similar, but as I said before, you have to go through, once you send the enrollment request, it will send the user to the App Store to install our MAS 360 MDM for Android. So they will go through that setup process, they will authenticate, they will accept the terms, and then they will have to accept as a device administrator, and then boom, they're set up, and you can go ahead and manage them in our portal.
So we're going to show some kind of really quickly some information from the MAS 360 portal. So this is actually a screenshot of what you see when you first log in, and I think Donna, while I'm talking, Donna's going to kind of jump over to her web browser, and you know, what we're going to show you is, you know, our, you know, demo environment that you know, we run internally here. We do testing out of it, and we also do demos out of it. So you logging in there, Donna, I think?
Yep. All right. Okay, so let's get, so here's where you would come into our portal. You would, after you sign up, you'd get a username and password. Let me just log in here again. And I'll just do a quick run through of some of the things here.
Yeah, we got like 5 minutes, so we'll make it super quick.
So here we go. So once you log in, right away you'll see your watch list. And you can jump right in to see how many devices you have in your environment. So as we can see, we have 40 devices in this environment.
So I would challenge you to go figure that out in an Exchange ActiveSync environment that quickly.
All right. So once we come into here, you'll see all of our devices, and we can actually click on these to get more information. So I think what we wanted to show was what my device, which is a Droid X, looks like with the Exchange ActiveSync.
Right. So what we're going to show you really quickly here, we talked about how, you know, with ActiveSync, the information you get is different based on what you're looking at, so we'll just show you at a high level here what we're talking about. We've got Donna's Droid X that's being managed by both ActiveSync as well as our own third-party Android, you know, our Android agent.
All right.
So here it comes. This is always the fun of trying to do something live. Why don't we do this? We can walk you through kind of at a high level what the watch list gives you while we wait for the service. So this is always the fun of working without a net, Donna.
Yes. Especially in a sandbox or demo environment. Okay.
No, it's not going to be our day today, I guess.
No, here it comes. Okay, so if we scroll down to my device here.
So just you can see here that her device is reported. Now this is the Exchange ActiveSync entry for this device. So it's reported as a smartphone. That's good. manufacturer and model are identical, and the thing I think is significant, frankly, is if you look, the operating system there is listed as Android. Now scroll down to that same device as it's being managed by our agent.
On the next page here. All right, so if we look up here.
All right, so now you can see that there's kind of better information, right? The manufacturer is Motorola versus Droid X. The model number, of course, is now reported correctly, Droid X. And, you know, what I see as significant here is that the operating system is being reported correctly, Android 2.2.1, and in this case, I can even see it's the Verizon wireless flavor of Android 2.2.1. So, you know, if you're trying to manage mobile devices, I mean, that is a critical piece of information that is, frankly, missing completely if you're working with through Exchange ActiveSync. So that was kind of just a quick thing we wanted to show you about that.
Okay.
So thanks for bearing with us while we did our live demo. I was the one who convinced Donna that, that it was safe to do this. I didn't want to go the screenshot route. So thanks, Donna, for your faith in me.
Anytime, Joe. So do we still have time to do a little bit more, or?
Well, what I'll do is I'll just wrap things up because we've gone
okay.
a couple minutes over, and I wasn't counting on how long the time in the portal would take.
Okay. Let me bring the.
So just a couple quick things. Our next webinar is March 17th. As I mentioned earlier, it's going to be on ways you can more effectively manage your mobile devices through Exchange 2007 or 2010. So please join us if you can for that. You'll be getting an email in a few minutes with the links to today's slides. So if you want to, get the slides, just click on that link and you'll be able to pull them. It's a PDF, so you can save them, do what you want with them after that. So thanks there. In that email, you will also see a link to take our MAS 360 MDM free trial. So Donna showed you kind of the basics of how you do that. It's really fast. It's really easy. It's really free. And so obviously, if you want to try this, that would be a much more effective way of finding out about our product than anything Donna or I could say. So I would hope if you've got a few minutes, you would give that a try, because that is literally all it takes is a few minutes. It's pretty incredible. And also, when I end the event in a moment or two, your browser is going to redirect to the screen where you could find out more about the trial and sign up if you wanted to. So with that, I wanted to thank you. There's a number of things I've got via the chat that folks have asked, a number of questions. I'll reply back to each of you during the course of the afternoon here. Thanks again for your time and for joining us today, and hope to see you again in 2 weeks. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.